Matt decided to still read this because the lols or something. So feel free to take it away, Matt.
So earlier in the week, I had seen people talking about just how bad this was. And we've been on record talking about Jeremy Adams and how we wish he could just focus on his mainline books because we do enjoy him as a writer. And it seems like since these KO spinoffs have taken off, Green Lantern doesn't feel quite the same. And I want to give him the utmost credit because this book is just there to throw in all these cameos for these outside of the. I mean, they're not all greater Warner Brothers characters, right? Like Homelander is part of who produced The Boys? Was that Dynamite?
That sounds right. Yeah, Dynamite. Yeah. So it's
and like Annabelle showing up makes sense. That's Warner Brothers. Conjuring is part of that, But like that bear character is from, I think, Beneath the Trees Where No One Sees. I have no idea who puts that out, right? Mortal Kombat, I feel like they have a different comic counterpart and whatever. So
Mortal Kombat's Warner Bros.
Yeah, but even the comics?
I don't know if the comics are.
I know there's been adaptations.
But Mortal Kombat is owned by Warner Brothers, like the IP.
It is owned by Warner?
Yeah.
Okay. So like this look is just I don't want to call it a cash grab because it did well enough digitally, right? But I want to be like, people are just overreacting, and they weren't. I'm probably going to be a bit more kind to it, and that's because I sat here and speed ran it before we recorded. And it kicks off with World Forger and Grodd showing up right at the end of KO3 when the final four are getting ready to face off against the absolute versions. And World Forger freezes time for a brief second. And because he's come up with a plan that if they try to face the absolute versions who are like charged with the Omega energy, they're just going to lose, right? Because they were born in the Omega energy. So he devises a way with Grodd that he can reach into the multiverse and pull off these other fights. And all of our heroes have to do is fight long enough to charge up the energy, and they can get it for themselves before going to the next round. And it's ultimately meaningless because most of these fights just happen. It just seems as an excuse to let the artist have fun, which is great. Like, we need to have these little moments here. And even while they're frozen, Joker's like, well, why don't we just go kill them right now? Like, we'll win. And World Forger's like, yeah, the moment that you put hands on them, this moment will be ended. So don't do that. And in addition to our final four, they allow 4 others that have, perished in the rounds to come back to assist in this. So we end up getting Batwoman, Black Lightning, Plastic Man, and who's the 4th in here? As you can tell, it made such an impact on me. And Star Sapphire to come back. And so World Forger hits the ground with his hammer, and it creates these fissures, and it pulls all of our heroes down into them. And now we get all of the cameos. And so Black Lightning and Plastic Man end up fighting Sub-Zero and Scorpion, and they end up doing some double team stuff. And there's 4 different artists on here, and they did a very good job at breaking it up across. And Diana ends up against Red Sonja, Superman against Homelander, Joker and Annabelle, which it pains me to say this is, the anti-Joker kind of guy. The Joker stuff is easily the most entertaining in this book, just because how he's reacting to Annabelle. Batwoman ends up against Vampirella, and their meeting ends up being like kind of nothing. Same as Star Sapphire and Sabrina Spellman from the Archie universe. In fact, Sabrina says, well, why don't we just do a spell and I'll give you the Omega energy? So and another of the entertaining ones is Lex Luthor versus that bear who's called Samantha Strong, who I feel like is just like a bear version of Dexter, from what I'm gathering from here, is like the serial killer that's living under everybody's noses. Because as Lex comes up on her, she has this bunny hanging upside down and is gutting him in a tree, and ends up giving Lex a fight of his life because he doesn't know. He's like, that bear has a knife. Why does a bear have a knife? And his armor gives him just enough, to prolong it. But Superman ends up against Homelander, and it's just like, I don't like Homelander as a character, which I know is the intent, but it's like I'm so tired of seeing Superman versus evil Superman. Like, I'd much rather have seen Lex versus Homelander, right? Like, that's a pairing that, as a longtime reader of Superman and fan of Superman,
I mean,
I would love to see.
It's the actual fight of Superman versus Homelander is not the interesting part. The interesting part to me, if you're going to do a crossover between the boys and Superman, is for Superman to see the world Homelander has made around him, right? To see how perverted the idea of Superman has been used to make everyone scared. The perverted idea of the Seven being their Justice League and so on. That's what's more interesting. Like, to actually see the people who are in need, who are scared of him. That's the interesting part. Just a one-on-one fight where none of the other characters from the boys are around. I'm not as interested in that.
Yeah, and so they end up going, essentially head up, and they're pretty much evenly matched, and Superman ends up diving under the ground, and Homelander, like, which I'm sorry, Cody Rhodes, every time he tries to do the Big America gimmick, just looks like and it can't, he has to know. He cannot be like, I'm looking at this, I'm like, that's just Cody Rhodes, the American flag keep and everything,
adrenaline in my soul, something yes. Cody Rhodes.
It's exactly what it is. But yeah, so Superman dives down underneath him, comes up, hits him with like this uppercut. They do the heat vision battle back and forth, and it ends up being evenly matched. But as they're fighting, the World Forger starts to be like, oh no, I can't hold this anymore. There's too much Omega energy, and the worlds start collapsing in on each other. And this is where we get a lot of the Joker and Annabelle stuff. It cuts to them, and he's having a tea party with Annabelle, and he's just like, oh, so I just have to, deal with this doll. And he's having a one-way conversation with her, and he ends up breaking the teacup, making like a shiv with it, talking about that he saw her move and all this. And a lot of this stuff is happening in the background after he tries to stab her with the broken teacup. A lot of the Joker Annabelle stuff is happening in the background, which makes it for a lot of fun. But we get a lot of splash pages with all the people fighting each other before World Forger has to collapse everything and sends the other people from the other multiverses back away. And they noticed that like Homelander's the only one that seemed to realize what was going on at a certain point. Like, he started pushing back against Superman, and even says, not yet. And, I'm not done until this Boy Scout's dead and buried. And which gives World Forger a little bit of a pause as he does this, but he's able to imbue them with the energy because of all the fights, and it picks right back up right before KO4 is about to kick off. So yeah, a big whopping 40 pages for like not an actual lot of fighting. It's just a lot of meaningless big pops. They're trying to play with these other IP. So
how much do you think issue 4 of KO will reference any of this?
I'll say there's a non-zero chance, but it's still very negligible.
At most it'll be like one little thing that gets an editor's note saying, hey, as seen in the boss battle issue. Yep,
about something about the Omega energy that they've been imbued with because of the battles along the way, right? All those. So so it ends with a glorious, Carmine Domenico page with the final 4 rushing the absolute universe characters. So yeah, it was, again, I don't think it was as bad as I had heard people say, but I might just be in a little bit, again, I didn't let stuff sink in, right? I might have a different opinion when the show's over, right? When I have time to think about all those type of stuff. But yeah, so I read it so people don't have to. So there you go. If you are interested in seeing like Homelander versus Superman or Joker and Annabelle, go ahead and give it a read through. When you're at your shop, right? Go thumb through it if you want, or if you are a completionist like I used to be, just pick it up, have it in your collection. When else are you going to say that you have a book with Joker and Annabelle in it? I'll give it a 6.5. Like the art is good because it's not like chaotic, but everything's a splash page. There's not a lot of, you know, continuity. They're not doing anything dynamic with a lot of these. So yeah, 6.5 I think is fair.